Hi, welcome to Dean Park. This video is all about signalling. I'll explain the fundamentals behind it, as well as showing you how to install it using some Heathcote electronic boards and some CR signals. It really is simple and adds that extra level of realism to any layout. If you have any questions, please post in the comment section below. If you like what you see, click on that like icon and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more from Dean Park, click on that icon at the bottom right hand side of the screen. In the meantime, enjoy the video. The equipment I use for my signalling are the Heathcote electronic boards, and these come in various configurations depending on your aspect of signal and your track layout, which I'll go into during the video. What I've done in front of me here is I've set up a little mock-up signalling setup, and what I've got here is I've got 3 aspect signals. And what I mean by a 3 aspect signal is that it's got a green, a yellow and a red light. If you've got a 4 aspect signal, that means you've got 4 different bulbs. You've got a red, you've got a green, you've got a yellow and you've got a double yellow. So that is a 4 aspect. And obviously if I'm going right back down, a 2 aspect is just a red and a green. I use all 3 variants on the layout. On the upper section I've got a 4 aspect signal plan. On the lower section I've got a 3 aspect, and on the track going into the bay sidings or the bay platforms I've used the 2 aspect signals. Okay, the board in front of me now is a Heathcote mass sequencer. Now what this can do, this can be a standalone board with a signal, because when the train passes it will trigger these infrared sensors, and you'll get notification of that being triggered by the LED flashing on the board, and you'll see that as the board that I've set up operates later in the video. Your power connectors go into these sockets here, and your signal with all its wires, depending if it's, let's just say, a 3 aspect, it would have a negative, it would have a red, yellow and a green. If you've obviously got your 4 aspect, you're using all of these because you've got a double yellow as well. So it passes the sensor, it then turns the signal to red. Because it's a mass sequencer, this here is a variable resistor, and you can set it to how quickly it goes back from red to yellow to green. Obviously the more realistic you want it, the longer pause between the change of aspect. But this unit can be used as a standalone on a small layout, a small diorama, or indeed a larger layout if you just want one signal. The train passes it, the signal goes to red, after a period of time it goes to yellow, and then it goes to green. So that is the mass sequencer. Very clever piece of kit. This particular board here is an ERDASC 4, and it's for a 3 aspect signal. When you order them from Heathcote Electronics, you get the choice of 2, 3 or 4 aspect signal. That's just so you can program the chip to operate for the right aspect of signal configuration that you've got. But the board itself is identical regardless of what aspect you're using. If I look underneath, you've still got these 2 sensors. These are direct plugs, so you actually fit that to the underside of the baseboard, and these come through between the sleepers. There's another variant I'll show you later on. This signal or board works in pretty much the same way as the mass sequencer. However, it's not got the variable resistor there, or the potentiometer. That's because when the train passes, it triggers the infrared, which will show on the LED, and it will stay at that aspect of red until it passes the next board, which then triggers that signal to red and this one back to yellow. And they are linked with the send and receive wires, which I will go into in a moment on the board here. So they are the 2 that I use at Dean Park. We've got the mass sequencer and we've got the ERDASC 4. Right, this setup here, we've got all aspect signals sitting at green just now, and we've got the sensors poking through the track. Obviously, if you do them on your layout, you won't have them poking up like that, you'll have them flush with the top of the sleeper. We've got this old iron ore wagon here. It's going to pass the first sensor, and it's going to change that signal to red. And it's going to stay at red because that's an AirDASC 4. And it's going to stay at red because it's not past the next signal. So therefore, a driver coming up behind in the next train can't pass the signal at danger, or SPAD, signal passed at danger. So it will stay at red. If I then move the wagon past the next set of sensors, this then turns that to red, and this one goes to a yellow aspect. So the driver coming up here can proceed at caution. But when he gets to this signal, he'll be stopped at red because the train has not yet cleared the third signal. Just like the real railway. Moving along, it then passes the mass sequencer. Only when it clears that mass sequencer does the process start of the timer. That will then go to yellow, and it will then change this one to green, which then that changes to green. This one then goes to green, and they're all back at green. Now if I was to slow the sequence down by changing the setup of the potentiometer, which I will do in a moment, you'll see how long it takes for each one. So you should have a red, a yellow, and a green aspect. No. So I'll show you that now by adjusting the setting of the variable resistor. Right, here we are again. All aspects are at green. Wagon passes the first one, sets the aspect to red. It'll stay at red until the next sensor is passed. Passes the next sensor. That one goes to red. That will then go to yellow. It passes the third one, which is the mass sequencer, remember, with the variable resistor. It then sits at red. It changes that one then to yellow, and that one goes to green. Then that one changes to yellow, to green, and green. And eventually this one will change back to green, and the whole line will be clear. There we go. If you recall in the previous clips, I talked about a variable resistor. That's it there. So that can be set so that the distance or time between different aspects of the signal is long or short. I tend to set it at a kind of medium setting. I don't want something so long that the timing in between going from red to yellow is minutes. I want it to be realistic, so when the train comes back round, it also meets a green aspect and doesn't have to stop every time. I mentioned earlier that when the train passes the sensor, the LED on the board is triggered, and I'll show you that just now. If I put my hand over the sensor, you'll see that LED illuminating. And obviously if there's, say, several carriages, it'll pick up each individual sensor, so it might go flash on like that as the train goes over. Alright. It will only start the timing, in the case of the mass sequencer, when the last piece of rolling stock has cleared the sensor. So that is when the sequence will begin, or the aspect will be passed to the next signal so it can change automatically. There may be a situation where you want to override the automated system and set the signal to red, and that's easily done using these Heathcote boards. I've got a simple on-off switch here. One goes to the 0 volts, and the other wire goes to the left hand end on the terminal there, and when I flick that switch, it changes the signal from whatever aspect it was to red, and it will stay at red until I flick it back. So I'll flip the board over and I'll show you that in operation. Right, we've got a situation here where I've overridden the automation on the last signal and I've set it to red. You'll see that therefore that one is at yellow and the first one is at green. So the driver coming up will be gradually warned that there is a red signal ahead before he gets to it. If I then put it back to automation, this will return to the aspect it was before, and it will also send a message to the middle one to react accordingly. There we go. So the train could then proceed without any issues. If I then want to send it back to red again, you'll see that that automatically sets it to red, that sets it to a yellow, and that obviously stays green aspect. So that obviously the driver is given that warning before he gets to the red aspect signal. Right, all aspects are green. I've got the override switch set to green as well. Wagon goes along, passes the first signal, it sets it to red, passes the second signal, that goes to red, first one will go to yellow, passes the third one, it'll set that to red, and the sequence then begins depending on the setting of your variable. It's easy as that. And if I want to override that, click the switch, it goes to red, and then it sets the rest accordingly. So there you go, signalling a layout. It really is very simple and really effective. Don't let anyone tell you it's complicated, and don't let anyone tell you it's above your skill set. Have a go. It really is simple when you're using the Heathcote boards and the CR signals. They all talk together and work together in harmony. There may be a scenario in your layout where you've got a line diversion off to the left or the right, and you wish to fit a route indicator to your signal, and that's these little row of lights. When I change the track or the turnout just past the signal to go to the left, you'll notice that the row of lights illuminates. When the train passes the sensor, the signal will change to red and the lights will go out. When the signal then changes back to a yellow or a double yellow, the feather would illuminate again. And obviously when I change the turnouts back to proceeding straight ahead, the feather will go out. I'll show you the board that makes this all happen. It really is a clever piece of kit. Now this board here will be used with the route indicator, and it's very similar to the other boards, but it's got these extra connectors at the side here which will go into the feather. Okay, you'll notice that I've got, in this particular one, I've got two sets of sensors, and they're on extended wires. Now this is ideal for when you cannot get this board mounted to the underside of the baseboard, like one of these. Okay, I use mainly now the extended wire ones, even where I have access under the baseboard and it's unobstructed. I like to have the sensor mounted somewhere else, and the wires going from the sensor to the tracks. So you can get the extended wire version on any of these boards at Heathcote Electronics, but with this case I've got two sets, and one would go in the straight line and one would go in the diverging line, and whenever the train passes either of them, the aspect would change of the signal. You also get the route indicator one where you've just got a single pair, which is the one I just showed you in the last clip. Alright, so you don't have to have the route indicators in boards with the twin ones, you can have them just with a single pair. Here's an example of the extended wire version in use. It's an AirDASC 4 aspect, and it takes the signal from the upper level. Now obviously being upper level, space is tight between that and the main baseboard, so I couldn't really be fitting the actual board right under the track. So I've used the extended wire version, and you can see these two kind of pink and orange wires going from the board all the way to the underside of the track on the upper section. This allows me to do any maintenance, replace boards without having to access directly under the raised section. So that's another advantage of using an extended wire version of the Heathcote electronic boards. The other one is you can mount it wherever you like, and so it's easy to get to. Like I've done here, I've not got it to the baseboard, I've got it on one of the frames, so it's sitting nice and easy for me to wire up. If you wish any more information on signalling, or if you've got a query of what signal to use where, contact Clive at Heathcote Electronics. He really is a helpful chap, and he'll try and explain it as best he can. I know when I started I didn't have a clue, and he must have been asked some stupid questions by myself, but he was always there to answer them, and he provided me with the kit that I needed for the scenario that I wanted. If you have any other questions, please contact me using the comment section below. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Cheers for now.